Welcome back to Izzo Math. We are still talking about the cosine and the sine, and we are going to define what we are going to call the key equation. Okay? From our last video, we saw that when we go an angle of theta, where the thetas in radians or degrees, we look at this. We stop and we look at the coordinates of that point. So that is some coordinate x and some coordinate y. And we know that the x is what we're going to call the cosine of theta, and that y is what we have defined to be the sine of theta. Okay? That's simply by definition. We call the x coordinate the cosine theta, the y coordinate the sine of theta. So let me sketch a little triangle here. And we see here that this is our x coordinate, and straight down here we have the y coordinate. That's over x up y. That gives me the coordinates x, y. And that gives me the right triangle that you see here. And so what is the length of the hypotenuse here? Well, since we're in the circle of radius 1, we know that if we go from the center to the outer edge of the circle, it's always going to be a length of 1. So we have a length of 1 for my radius there. So by the Pythagorean theorem, we know that what x squared plus y squared equals 1. Okay? But if we look here, we see that the x is we can rename x cosine theta. So that is cosine theta squared plus y. We look here, we can rename y sine theta plus sine theta squared equals 1. And that is your key equation. Cosine theta squared plus sine theta squared equals 1. But you will rarely ever see it written like that. Here's how you will see it written. But remember, this is what it means. Cosine theta squared plus sine theta squared equals 1. But it always is written as cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. And I think that's just a matter of convention because it takes up less space and less characters. You don't have to do the parentheses. But this is what it actually means. You can't, cos squared means nothing. You got to take the cosine of an angle to get the number and then square it. So here is our key equation. Okay? Let's see how we can use that. Let's say I don't think he's going back. Let me get a new page here. Okay, so let's say since we have CO there, let's say the cosine of theta equals, I don't know, let's say 0.4 degrees, and let's say theta is between 0 and pi over 2. Now let's find sine theta. So here's our problem. Let me sketch a circle. It's always a good idea to sketch a circle anytime you're doing these to make sure you understand what you're really looking for. Okay? And we know cosine theta is 0.4. What does that mean? That means my x coordinate is about 0.4. So somewhere in there is my x coordinate. And I know theta is between 0 and pi over 2, so I know I'm on somewhere on this arc here. And so cosine theta is 0.4. That puts me right there. So that is, we know this length is 0.4, and we want to find this length there of y. and we know that the hypotenuse here is the length of 1. We're in the unit circle. So you see there, it's just really simply solving a right triangle. So we know that cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. That gives me that cosine theta equals 0.4. So 0.4 squared plus sine squared theta equals 1. 0.4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. Move my decimal 2 places, so 0.16 plus sine squared theta equals 1. Subtract 0.16 from both sides to get sine squared theta equals 1 minus 0.16, and so we get that the sine squared of theta equals 1 minus 0.16. What's that going to be? 0.84. 0.84. 6 and 4 is 10. Carry the 1, 8, 9, 10. Yep, that's got it. So I know that the sine of theta equals, take the square root, so I get plus or minus 0.84. So the question is it plus or minus? And so that's where this information there comes into play. That telling me that it's between 0 and pi over 2 tells me that I have a positive y there. So I get sine of theta equals the positive coordinate 0 square root of 0.84. Note that had, let's say, if theta, let's say it's between 0 and negative pi over 2. So it is bigger than negative pi over 2 but less than 0. So between negative pi over 2 and 0, that would be here. So note that I can still have the same, I'm doing a different color. I can still have the same x coordinate 0.4 here, but the y coordinate would be down that direction. It's going to be the same value, but so there I would have had sine theta equals a negative square root of 0.84. Okay, how we doing on time? 8.04. Let's stop it there. All these are done exactly the same. Okay, and I will see you in the next video where we will be talking about the graph of the sine and the cosine. Thank you.